Have you ever wondered what would happen if someone who had everything fell in love with someone who had absolutely nothing? Not just different lifestyles, but completely different worlds. This is not just a love story, it's a story about choices, risks, and a moment that changed two lives forever. On one side of the city, behind tall glass walls and guarded gates, lived a girl who had never been told no. Her name was Alina. The only daughter of a powerful billionaire, she grew up surrounded by luxury, designer clothes, expensive cars, private schools, and everything money could buy. People envied her life. From the outside it looked perfect, but inside her world felt controlled, predictable, and strangely empty. Every day of her life was planned. What she wore, where she went, who she spoke to, it all had to match her father's image. To him, reputation was everything. And love? Love was something that had to be appropriate. Someone from the same class, the same level, the same status. But Alina didn't feel like she belonged in that perfect world. She often found herself staring out of her car window, watching the busy streets of the city. People laughing, struggling, living real lives. It was messy, unpredictable, and somehow, it felt more real than anything she had ever experienced. And then, one evening, everything changed. It was raining heavily that night. The kind of rain that makes the city feel quieter, colder. Alina's car had stopped at a traffic signal when she noticed someone sitting by the roadside. At first, she almost looked away, just another homeless person, someone the world had forgotten. But something about him caught her attention. He wasn't begging. He wasn't even looking at anyone. He just sat there, drenched in rain, holding a small, worn-out notebook as if it was the only thing that mattered. There was a calmness in his eyes, a quiet strength that didn't match his situation. Alina couldn't explain it, but for the first time in her life, she felt curious. "Who is he?" she whispered to herself. The signal turned green and the car moved forward. But her mind stayed behind, with him. The next day, she couldn't stop thinking about that moment. It didn't make sense. She had seen people like him before. Hundreds of times. So why did this one feel different? Against everything she had been taught, she decided to go back. This time she didn't sit in the car. She stepped out. Her driver hesitated. "Miss, this area isn't safe." But Alina ignored him. She walked slowly toward the same spot, and there he was again. Sitting quietly, flipping through the pages of his notebook. As she got closer, she noticed something surprising. He was writing. Not random words. Not scribbles. Stories. "Hi," she said softly, unsure of what she was doing. He looked up. For a moment, their worlds collided, her polished, perfect life and his broken, uncertain one. "Hi," he replied, simple and calm. There was no shock in his voice. No desperation. No attempt to impress her. Just honesty. "What are you writing?" she asked. He hesitated, then closed the notebook slightly. "Just thoughts. Stories. Things people don't usually listen to." Something about that answer stayed with her. "Can I read it?" He smiled faintly. "Maybe someday." That was the beginning. Days turned into weeks. Alina kept coming back. Sometimes with questions. Sometimes just to sit and listen. His name was Zayan. He had no home, no family nearby, and no clear future. But he had dreams. Big ones. Dreams that didn't match the way the world saw him. And for the first time in her life, Alina felt like she was learning something real. They talked about everything. Life, fears, choices, dreams. He never treated her like a billionaire's daughter. And she never felt like she had to pretend around him. But love doesn't ask for permission. It grows quietly. Unexpectedly. Dangerously. And soon, Alina found herself standing at a crossroad she had never imagined. A life chosen for her, or a life she wanted for herself. Because falling in love with Zayan didn't just mean following her heart. It meant breaking rules. Defying her father. Risking everything. And the biggest question of all. Could a billionaire's daughter really build a future with a man who didn't even have a place to sleep? Or was this love just a beautiful mistake waiting to fall apart? One night, everything came to a turning point. Alina made a decision. One that would change both their lives forever. But she had no idea. Someone was watching. And what happened next, no one could have seen coming. The next evening, Alina couldn't shake off the feeling that something had changed. The air felt heavier, like the calm before a storm. She still went to meet Zayan, but this time she was more careful. She looked around before stepping out of the car, her heart beating faster than usual. That strange feeling from the night before, it hadn't gone away. Zayan was already there, sitting in the same spot, flipping through his notebook like always. But when he saw her, he paused for a second, almost like he sensed something too. "You look worried," he said gently. Alina tried to smile, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. I don't know, it just feels like something isn't right. Zayan studied her for a moment, then closed his notebook. Sometimes your instincts pick up things your mind doesn't understand yet. His words only made her more uneasy. For the first time since they met, silence sat between them longer than usual. The city noise felt distant, like everything else had faded away except this strange tension. Alina finally broke the silence. Zayan, have you ever felt like someone is watching you? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked past her, scanning the street carefully. People were walking, cars were passing, nothing unusual at first glance. But then his expression changed just slightly. Maybe, he said quietly. Or maybe someone doesn't want us to meet. That sentence hit harder than she expected. Why would anyone care? She asked. Zayan gave a small, thoughtful smile. You're asking the wrong question. It's not why. It's who. Alina felt a chill run through her. She had been so focused on her own world, her father, her life, her decisions, that she hadn't stopped to think about how visible she really was. A billionaire's daughter doesn't just disappear into the city unnoticed. People watch. People report. People talk. And if someone had seen her here, with him, the thought made her uneasy. That night when she returned home, things felt different. The house was as grand as ever, lights glowing, staff moving quietly, everything in place. But there was a tension in the air she couldn't ignore. As she walked inside, she noticed her father standing in the living room. He wasn't usually home this early. Alina, he said, his voice calm but firm. We need to talk. Her heart skipped a beat. There was something in his tone she had never heard before. Not anger. Not disappointment. Something colder, more controlled. She stepped closer, trying to stay calm. Is everything okay? He looked at her for a long moment as if studying her. Where have you been going every evening? The question came out of nowhere, but at the same time, it felt like the moment she had been dreading. Alina hesitated. Just for a second. But that second was enough. I've just been going out, she said carefully. Getting some fresh air. Her father's expression didn't change. Fresh air doesn't usually take this long, he replied. The room suddenly felt smaller. Alina, he continued, his voice still calm, you know how important our reputation is? Every move you make, people see it. People talk. She stayed silent, unsure of how much he already knew. Then he took a step closer. Tell me the truth, he said. Who is he? The question landed like a shock. Alina's mind raced. How much did he know? Had someone followed her? Had they seen Zayan? I don't know what you're talking about, she said, trying to sound steady. But her father didn't look convinced. Instead, he gave a slight nod as if confirming something in his own mind. Be careful, Alina, he said quietly. Not everything outside these walls is what it seems. That wasn't a warning. It felt more like a message. That night, Alina couldn't sleep. Her thoughts kept going back to Zayan. His calm voice. His words about someone watching. The way he had looked around so carefully. Was this just her father being protective, or was there something more? The next day, she went to meet Zayan earlier than usual. But when she reached the spot, he wasn't there. Her heart started racing. She looked around, scanning every corner, every face passing by. The street felt unfamiliar without him. The space where he usually sat felt empty, wrong. Zayan? She whispered, almost to herself. No answer. Minutes passed. Then more. She was about to leave when she noticed something on the ground. His notebook. It was lying near the wall, slightly wet, as if it had been dropped in a hurry. Alina quickly picked it up, her hands trembling. This wasn't like him. He never left it behind. That notebook meant everything to him. Something was definitely wrong. She opened it carefully. At first, it was the same as before, pages filled with stories, thoughts, small observations about life. But as she flipped through, something caught her attention. The writing had changed. The last few pages looked rushed, almost urgent. And then she saw a line that made her stop breathing for a second. They know about her. Alina's chest tightened. She turned the page quickly. If anything happens, she needs to stay away. Her mind went blank. What did that mean? Who knew? What was he trying to protect her from? And then, on the very last page, there was something even more confusing. A name. Not hers. Not his. A name she had never seen before. And underneath it, a location. Alina stared at it, her heart pounding louder than ever. Nothing about this made sense anymore. Zayan was gone. Someone had been watching. Her father was asking questions. And now this. A name. A place. and a warning that came too late. Alina closed the notebook slowly, her hands still shaking. For the first time, she realized this wasn't just a story about love anymore. It was turning into something deeper, something dangerous. And the more she tried to understand it, the more it felt like she was stepping into a world she knew nothing about. Alina stood there for a long moment, holding the notebook close to her chest like it was the only thing connecting her to Zayan. The street around her kept moving, cars passing, people talking, life going on like nothing had changed. But for her, everything felt frozen. She looked down again at the last page. That name. That location. It didn't feel random. Zayan wasn't careless. If he wrote something like this, it meant something. But why didn't he tell her directly? And what did he mean by "they know about her"? Her thoughts kept circling back to her father. The questions. The timing. The way he looked at her like he already had answers and was just waiting for her to admit them. No, she whispered to herself. It can't be that simple. Still, the doubt was there. Clutching the notebook, she walked back to the car, her mind racing with questions she couldn't answer yet. That night, the mansion felt even quieter than usual. Too quiet. Like everyone knew something but no one was saying it. Even the staff avoided eye contact, which only made her more uneasy. As she walked toward her room, she noticed something unusual. The door to her father's office was slightly open. A soft light spilled into the hallway. He was inside. Alina slowed her steps. She didn't plan to stop. She didn't plan to listen. But as she got closer, she heard voices. Not just her father's. Another man was there. "I want everything on him," her father was saying, his tone low but sharp. Where he came from, who he talks to, where he disappears to. Alina's heart started pounding. "He doesn't seem like a threat," the other man replied. "That's exactly what makes him one," her father said without hesitation. Alina froze. Were they talking about Zayan? "I don't want mistakes," her father continued. "And I don't want my daughter involved in something we don't understand." Her breath caught. So he did know. But something about his words didn't sound like anger. It sounded like concern, mixed with suspicion. "Sir," the other man said carefully, "what if this is just coincidence?" Her father let out a quiet breath. "In my world, nothing is coincidence." The silence that followed felt heavy. Alina stepped back slowly, her mind spinning. This wasn't just about protecting her reputation. There was something else going on. Something bigger. And somehow, Zayan was part of it. Back in her room, she locked the door and placed the notebook on her bed. She stared at it for a long time before finally opening it again. This time she didn't just skim through it. She read everything. Every page. Every word. At first, it felt like simple writing. Stories about strangers, moments from the streets, thoughts about life and struggle. But as she went deeper, patterns started to appear. Zayan wasn't just observing people. He was noticing things. Details that most people would ignore. Conversations that seemed ordinary, but weren't. Places where the same faces appeared again and again. And then there were small notes in the margins. Dates. Times. Short sentences that didn't fully make sense on their own. It was like he was putting together pieces of something. But what? Alina flipped back to the last page again. That name. That location. She grabbed her phone and stared at it for a moment. Should she search it? Should she go there? Every instinct told her to be careful. But another voice inside her, stronger, louder, told her she couldn't just sit and wait. Not when Zayan was missing. Not when things didn't add up. The next morning, she made a decision she never thought she would make. She left the house without telling anyone. No driver. No security. Just her. It felt strange at first. Almost unreal. But at the same time, there was a sense of freedom she had never experienced before. She followed the location from the notebook, her heart beating faster with every step. The place wasn't what she expected. It wasn't dangerous looking. It wasn't hidden. It was just ordinary. A small cafe tucked between older buildings, the kind of place people wouldn't notice unless they were looking for it. Alina stopped across the street, observing it carefully. "Why here?" she murmured. Taking a deep breath, she walked in. The smell of coffee filled the air. A few people sat quietly, minding their own business. Nothing seemed out of place. But then she noticed something. A man sitting in the corner. He wasn't drinking anything. He wasn't using his phone. He was just watching. Not in an obvious way, but enough to make her uneasy. Alina looked away quickly and walked to the counter, trying to act normal. "Can I help you?" the barista asked. She hesitated, then said the name from the notebook. For a split second, the barista's expression changed. Just slightly. But Alina noticed. I think you have the wrong place, he said quickly. Too quickly. Alina forced a small smile, but inside, her suspicions grew stronger. This wasn't random. Something was definitely connected. As she turned to leave, she felt it again. That same feeling. Like someone was watching her. She glanced toward the corner again. The man was gone. Her heart skipped. She hadn't seen him leave. Now, standing outside the cafe again, Alina realized something she hadn't fully accepted until now. Zayan wasn't just a homeless man with dreams and stories. There was something else about him. Something he hadn't told her. And now she was standing right in the middle of it. Caught between her father's secrets and Zayan's hidden world. And the more she tried to understand it, the more it felt like she was running out of time. Alina didn't go back home right away. Something inside her told her that if she walked away now, she might lose the only chance she had to understand what was really going on. The cafe, the name, the way the barista reacted, and that man who disappeared without a trace. It all felt too connected to ignore. She took a slow breath and started walking down the street, pretending she had somewhere to go. But her eyes stayed alert, scanning reflections in windows, listening to footsteps behind her. That same uneasy feeling followed her, growing stronger with every step. Then she heard it. Footsteps. Not too close. Not too far. Just enough to make her question if it was real or just her imagination. She kept walking. The sound stayed. Her heart began to race. She turned suddenly. No one. Just a few people passing by, minding their own business. A couple talking. A man on his phone. Nothing unusual. But she knew what she felt. Someone was there. Trying to stay calm, she walked faster and turned into a narrower street. It was quieter here, less crowded. Maybe not the smartest move, but she needed to know if she was being followed. A few seconds later, the footsteps returned. This time closer. Alina stopped. So did the sound. Her chest tightened. Okay, she whispered under her breath. This isn't normal. She turned again, more slowly this time. And that's when she saw him. The same man from the cafe. Standing a few steps behind her. He didn't look surprised. He didn't look nervous. He just stood there, calm, like he had been expecting this moment. Why are you following me? Alina asked, trying to keep her voice steady. The man tilted his head slightly, studying her. You shouldn't be here. That's not an answer, she said, her tone firmer now. For a moment he didn't respond. Then he took a small step closer. You said a name inside that cafe, he said quietly. That name isn't something people just say. Alina's grip tightened around the notebook in her hand. I'm looking for someone, she replied. And I think you know who. A faint expression crossed his face. Not surprise. Not fear. Something more complicated. You're already in deeper than you realize, he said. Her heart pounded. Then explain it to me. He looked around quickly, then back at her. Not here. Before she could react, he turned and started walking away. Wait, she called out. He didn't stop, but he slowed down just enough for her to follow. For a split second, Alina hesitated. Every warning in her mind told her not to trust this. Not to follow a stranger into something she didn't understand. But Zayan was missing. And this was the first real lead she had. So she followed. They walked through narrow streets, then wider ones, then quieter areas again. It felt like a maze. Like he was making sure no one else could track them. Finally, he stopped in front of an old, worn-down building. This is as far as I go, he said. Alina looked at him, confused. What is this place? He didn't answer directly. Instead, he looked at her seriously. If you go inside, there's no going back to the life you had before. The words hit hard. What does that mean? She asked. It means, he said slowly, that the story you think you're part of is much bigger than you. A chill ran through her. And Zayan? She asked softly. For the first time, the man's expression changed in a way she couldn't ignore. You really don't know who he is, do you? He said. Her breath caught. What are you talking about? But he shook his head slightly. If you care about him, be careful who you trust. Not everyone around you is on your side. Her mind instantly went to her father. What about you? She asked. Can I trust you? He gave a faint, almost sad smile. That's something you'll have to decide very quickly. Then, without another word, he walked away. Just like that. Leaving her alone in front of the building. Alina stood there, staring at the door. Everything inside her was in conflict. Fear. Curiosity. Worry. Determination. Zayan's face flashed in her mind. The way he spoke. The way he looked at her like she was just a person, not a name or a status. And then those words from his notebook echoed again. They know about her. Her hand slowly reached for the door. But just as she was about to push it open, her phone rang. The sudden sound made her jump. She quickly pulled it out and looked at the screen. It was her father. For a moment she just stared at it. He never called her like this during the day. Something was wrong. She answered. Hello. His voice came through calm, but sharper than usual. Alina, where are you? Her heart started racing again. I'm just out. Go home. Right now, he said, cutting her off. The tone wasn't a suggestion. It was a command. Why? She asked, her voice barely steady. There was a brief silence on the other end. Then he said something that made her freeze completely. Because the man you're looking for, he paused, is not who you think he is. Alina's grip on the phone tightened. What do you mean? But before he could answer, a loud noise came from inside the building behind her, like something falling, or a door slamming. Her heart jumped into her throat. Alina? Her father's voice came again, more urgent now. Listen to me, do not go inside. She turned slowly toward the door. Every instinct told her to step back, to listen, to walk away. But something stronger pulled her forward. Zayan was in there. She could feel it. Her hand moved again, this time pushing the door open slightly. Darkness waited inside. And silence. Alina, her father's voice echoed through the phone. But she wasn't listening anymore. Because in that moment, she heard something. A faint sound. Like a voice. Calling her name. From inside. Alina froze at the doorway, her breath caught somewhere between fear and disbelief. She was sure she heard it. Her name. Soft, weak, but real. Alina. It was Zayan's voice. Her heart slammed against her chest. Without thinking, she pushed the door open further and stepped inside. The light from outside barely reached beyond the entrance. The inside of the building was dim, quiet, almost abandoned, but not empty. Zayan? She called out, her voice shaking slightly. Behind her, her father's voice was still coming through the phone. Alina, listen to me. You don't understand what you're walking into. But she lowered the phone slowly, her focus locked ahead. There was a staircase to the right and a narrow hallway stretching forward. The air felt heavy, like the building had been holding secrets for a long time. Then she heard it again. A faint movement. Somewhere deeper inside. She moved forward carefully, each step slow, her senses alert. The floor creaked under her feet, and every sound felt louder than it should. Zayan? It's me, she said softly. No response. Just silence again. But she knew she wasn't alone. As she reached the end of the hallway, she noticed the door slightly open. A dim light flickered inside. Her heart raced faster. This was it. She pushed the door open. And for a second, everything stopped. Zayan was there. Sitting on a chair, his hands tied loosely, looking exhausted but conscious. When he saw her, his eyes widened, not with relief but with something else. So, why are you here? He said quickly, his voice low but urgent. Alina rushed toward him. I found your notebook. I thought. You shouldn't have come, he interrupted, his tone sharper now. That wasn't the reaction she expected. I came to help you, she said, confused. What's going on? Who did this to you? Zayan looked at her for a long second, like he was trying to decide something. Then he let out a quiet breath. It's not what you think. Before she could ask anything else, a voice came from behind her. I told you not to come inside. Alina turned instantly. The man from earlier stood in the doorway, calm as ever. But this time he wasn't alone. Two more men stood behind him. The room suddenly felt smaller. What is this? Alina demanded, her voice shaking now. What's happening? The man didn't answer her directly. Instead, his eyes shifted to Zayan. Well, he said slowly, looks like your story just got more complicated. Alina looked back at Zayan. Tell me what's going on. Zayan didn't meet her eyes this time. That was the moment something inside her shifted. Zayan? She said again, quieter now. Finally he spoke. Alina. I'm not who you think I am. The words hit her harder than anything else. What does that mean? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Before he could answer, another voice filled the room. This one, she knew. Because he was never just a homeless man. Alina turned sharply toward the entrance. Her father stood there. Calm. Controlled. Like he had been part of this moment all along. Her world tilted. Dad? She said, completely stunned. What are you doing here? He stepped inside slowly, his eyes briefly scanning the room before resting on her. I was hoping you'd listen to me. Alina's heart pounded harder than ever. She looked between him, Zayan, and the others. Someone needs to start explaining, she said, her voice rising now. Her father sighed slightly, like this was something he had been trying to avoid. The man you call Zayan isn't just someone you met by chance. Alina shook her head, trying to process. Then who is he? Silence filled the room. Then Zayan spoke. My real name isn't Zayan. The air felt like it disappeared. Alina stared at him, unable to speak. I didn't lie to hurt you, he continued, his voice steady but heavy. But I couldn't tell you the truth either. Then tell me now, she said, her eyes searching his face. Please. He hesitated. And that hesitation said more than words. He's been watching you, her father said suddenly. Alina turned toward him, shocked. What? Not just you, he corrected. Our world. Our business. Our moves. That's not true, Zayan said firmly. But her father didn't stop. He got close to you for a reason. Alina felt her chest tighten. No, that's not possible. Her mind flashed back to every moment. Every conversation. Every look. Every word that felt real. You think it's a coincidence? Her father continued. Out of everyone in this city, you just happened to notice him? Alina looked at Zayan again. Tell me he's wrong, she said. Zayan stepped forward slightly, his voice more intense now. I didn't plan to feel anything. That part wasn't supposed to happen. Her heart sank. Wasn't supposed to happen? She repeated softly. The room fell into a heavy silence. Every answer only brought more questions. Every truth felt like it came with another hidden layer. And then, the second twist hit harder than the first. The man by the door spoke again. If you think this is just about him, he said, glancing at Alina, then you still don't understand the real problem. Alina turned slowly toward him. What do you mean? He exchanged a look with her father. And for the first time, her father didn't look fully in control. It means, the man continued, this isn't just about love or secrets, or even him. He paused. It's about something your family has been involved in for a long time. Alina's breath caught. She looked at her father. Is that true? She asked. He didn't answer. And that silence was louder than anything else. Now, standing in that dim room, surrounded by people she thought she knew and truths she never expected, Alina realized something terrifying. She wasn't just caught between two worlds anymore. She was standing at the center of something much bigger. Something that had been unfolding long before she ever met Zayan. And whatever came next, there was no turning back. The silence in the room felt heavier than anything Alina had ever experienced. Her eyes stayed fixed on her father, waiting for him to deny it, to explain it, to say something that would make sense of everything. But he didn't. Instead, he took a slow breath and stepped closer, his voice calm but no longer distant. There are things I kept from you because I wanted to protect you. This world, it's not as clean as it looks from the outside. Alina shook her head, her emotions rising. Protect me? By lying to me? By hiding all of this? It wasn't that simple, he replied. Then make it simple, she said, her voice breaking slightly. Tell me the truth. For the first time, her father looked at Zayan not as a threat, but as someone who had crossed into something unavoidable. He's been investigating us, her father said. Alina turned sharply. Investigating what? Zayan stepped forward before her father could continue. Not just your family, he said. A network. Deals happening behind closed doors. People using power to control things they shouldn't. Alina felt like the ground beneath her was slipping. And you got close to me because of that? Zayan didn't look away this time. At first, yes. The truth landed hard. But that changed, he added quickly. Everything changed when I got to know you. Her eyes filled with confusion and hurt. So what was real? All of it, he said, his voice firm. Every conversation. Every moment. That wasn't part of any plan. Her father let out a quiet breath. That's where he made his mistake. Zayan looked at him. If caring about her is a mistake, then I don't regret it. The tension in the room tightened. Alina looked between them, trying to piece everything together. So what happens now? She asked. What is this really about? Before anyone could answer, a loud noise echoed from outside the building. Not close, but close enough. Everyone froze. The man near the door moved quickly to the window, glancing outside. His expression changed instantly. We don't have much time, he said. Alina's heart raced. Time for what? Her father's voice turned serious. Things have moved faster than expected. Zayan stepped closer to Alina. There are people who don't want the truth to come out. And now, they know you're involved. Alina felt fear rise, but also something else, clarity. So all of this, she said slowly, was leading to this moment? No one answered directly, but she could see it in their faces. Yes, Zayan said quietly. The situation was no longer hidden. No more secrets left to uncover. Everything had collided at once, her father's world, Zayan's truth, and her own choices. The door behind them suddenly slammed shut. The sound echoed through the room, sharp and final. Everyone turned. Footsteps approached from the other side. Slow. Confident. The handle moved. And then the door opened. A new figure stepped inside. Well-dressed. Calm. Controlled. But there was something about him that made the entire room shift. Even Alina's father stiffened slightly. Well, the man said, looking around with a faint smile, this is quite the gathering. Alina didn't recognize him, but she could feel it instantly. This man was different. Who is he? She whispered. Her father didn't take his eyes off him. Someone we were hoping wouldn't get involved this early. The man's gaze moved to Alina. And you must be the reason everything accelerated, he said. Alina felt her chest tighten. I don't even know what's happening anymore. That's understandable, he replied calmly. You were never supposed to be part of this. Zayan stepped slightly in front of her. Stay away from her. The man smiled faintly. Still protecting her even now. Then he looked at Zayan more closely. You've done more than expected, he said. But emotions always complicate things. Alina grabbed Zayan's arm. What does he want? Zayan didn't answer immediately. Because in that moment, everything clicked for him. His expression changed. Not fear. Not confusion. Recognition. You, Zayan said slowly. The man tilted his head. Yes, me. The room went silent again. Alina looked at Zayan. You know him? Zayan's jaw tightened. I thought this was bigger than one person, but I was wrong. Her heart pounded. What do you mean? Before Zayan could answer, her father spoke. This isn't just a network, he said. It's controlled. Alina's breath caught. By him, Zayan finished. The realization hit all at once. Everything traced back to this one man. The secrets, the deals, the danger. And now they were all standing in front of him. The man took a few slow steps into the room, completely at ease. You're all looking at me like I'm the villain, he said. But none of this would exist without demand. I just manage it. Alina felt anger rise through the fear. People are getting hurt because of this. He looked at her calmly. And yet your family benefited from it. Her eyes snapped toward her father. He didn't deny it. That was the final piece. Everything she believed about her world shattered in that moment. The life she thought was perfect wasn't clean at all. And Zayan, the man she thought had nothing, was the one trying to expose it. Tears filled her eyes, but her voice stayed steady. So what now? The man looked at all of them, then gave a small shrug. Now, we decide how this ends. The tension peaked. No one moved. No one spoke. Then suddenly, the sound of sirens filled the distance. Loud. Growing closer. The man's expression changed slightly for the first time. Zayan looked at Alina. And for a brief moment, everything else faded. This was never just about us, he said softly. But you made it matter. Alina held his gaze, her heart still racing. Was any of this real? She asked one last time. Zayan didn't hesitate. Yes. The sirens grew louder. Closer. The man near the door stepped back. Her father looked at her, something unspoken in his eyes. And just when it felt like everything was about to finally break open, the final twist came quietly. Alina's phone buzzed in her hand. She looked down. A message. A known number. Her fingers trembled as she opened it. One line. You were part of this long before you met him. Her breath stopped. What? She whispered. She looked up slowly, her eyes moving between her father, Zayan, and the man in front of her. Is this true? She asked, her voice barely there. No one answered. Not immediately. And in that silence, something even more unsettling settled in. Because for the first time, Alina wasn't sure if she was just caught in the story, or if she had been part of it all along. The message stayed on Alina's screen, glowing like it was burning into her thoughts. You were part of this long before you met him. Her hands trembled slightly as she looked up again. The sirens outside were louder now, filling the air with urgency, but inside the room, everything felt strangely still. What does this mean? She asked, her voice quiet but steady. Tell me the truth, all of it. Her father finally stepped forward, his face no longer as controlled as before. There was something heavier there now, something closer to regret. When you were younger, he began slowly, your name was used in places you didn't understand. Accounts, signatures, ownership links, things done to protect the business. Alina frowned, trying to process. Protect or hide? He didn't answer right away. That network Zayan was investigating, her father continued, some of it was connected through you. Not by your choice. But on paper, you were involved. The words felt unreal. I didn't even know, she whispered. I know, he said. That's why I never told you. But that doesn't change anything, she replied, her voice rising slightly. It still happened. Zayan stepped closer, his tone calmer now. That's why your name kept appearing. I thought it didn't make sense. Nothing about you matched what I was finding. Alina looked at him, her eyes searching his face. And now? Now I know the truth, he said. You were never part of the problem, just caught inside it. The man near the door let out a soft chuckle. Intent doesn't matter in this world. Only connections do. But this time no one paid attention to him. Because something had shifted. The sirens were right outside now. Voices echoed faintly. The situation was no longer hidden. Her father looked at her again. This ends today, he said quietly. Alina studied him. Does it? He nodded slowly. I've spent years building something I thought was necessary. But I can see now, it cost more than I realized. For the first time she saw not a powerful businessman, but a father who had made choices he couldn't undo. The door behind them opened again, this time with authority. Officials entered, their presence firm but controlled. The tension in the room didn't explode, it settled like something finally reaching its end. The man who had walked in earlier didn't resist. He simply smiled faintly, like he had always known this moment would come. Every story needs an ending, he said calmly. Zayan glanced at Alina, then back at the scene unfolding. For months, maybe longer, he had been chasing answers. And now they were all here, but it didn't feel like victory. It felt complicated. As things began to move around them, Alina stepped back slightly, trying to breathe, trying to understand everything that had just happened. Her world had changed in a matter of hours. The rich, perfect life she knew wasn't what it seemed. The poor, homeless man she fell in love with wasn't who she thought either. And yet, somehow the truth brought everything into focus. Later, outside the building, the noise faded into the background. The sky was turning softer as evening approached, and for the first time in a long while, Alina stood without knowing what came next. Zayan stood a few steps away, looking at her, unsure of what to say. So, she said finally, breaking the silence. What happens now? He gave a small, honest smile. That depends on you. She looked down for a moment, then back up. No more lies. No more lies, he agreed. She took a slow breath. You could have told me. I know, he said. But I didn't think I'd feel this way. There was no need to explain what this way meant. It was already there in the silence between them. Alina nodded slightly. I don't know what the future looks like anymore. Neither do I, he admitted. For a moment they just stood there, no walls, no secrets, no roles to play. Just two people who met in the most unexpected way. I guess this isn't exactly the kind of love story people imagine, she said softly. Zayan smiled. Maybe not. But it's real. She looked at him, and for the first time since everything started, she felt something steady. Not perfect, not easy, but real. Behind them, her father walked out slowly, watching them from a distance. He didn't interrupt. He didn't try to control anything. For once, he let her choose. Alina noticed him and their eyes met. There was no anger there anymore. Just understanding, and a quiet acceptance that things would never be the same again. She turned back to Zayan. You're not going back to that life, are you? She asked. He shook his head. That chapter's over. Good, she said. Because mine is too. There was a small pause. Then she smiled just a little. Maybe we both start from zero. Zayan let out a soft breath. Together? She didn't answer right away. Instead she took a step forward. And that was enough. The city around them continued as always, busy, loud, unpredictable. But for them something had changed. Not everything was solved. Not every question had a perfect answer. But the truth was out. The past had been faced. And the future was finally theirs to decide. Sometimes love doesn't come in perfect moments or easy choices. Sometimes it finds you in the middle of chaos, between truth and lies, between two completely different worlds. And maybe that's what makes it matter. Not where you come from, not what you have, but who you choose when everything else falls apart.